Who hasn't ever wished to possess a superpower? To extract mighty claws, become invisible, or perhaps shoot laser beams from eyes? What if I told you that there are animals with these superpowers? In this video we will see 7 animals with incredible abilities, each connected to a superhero. It will feel like you're watching the cast of the next Marvel movie. So buckle up, here we go. 7. Trechalea extensa. Let's start with this particular species of spider that lives in South America. Hey, hold on, I know who you're thinking of, but it's not what it seems. This spider's special superpower is to breathe underwater, where it spends most of its life. Thanks to this, it can easily escape from potential enemies, but it can also hunt, rest, feed, mate, and lay eggs, all without having to resurface. More than Spider-Man, this spider resembles Aquaman. But the crucial question is, how does it breathe underwater? In fact, it doesn't have any type of gills, but uses an interesting technique. With its legs, it can trap a bubble of air around its body, allowing it to breathe. The hairs on its back are covered with a fatty substance, making them hydrophobic. In this way, it can retain a bubble of oxygen that it uses as a natural respirator. Hence it is called the diving bell spider. Ingenious, right? By doing so, it can resist up to 30 minutes underwater. It just has to resurface occasionally to replenish some oxygen. But that's not all. In fact, this spider also creates an underwater air reserve. Thanks to its web, which it mixes with a hydrophobic substance, it can retain the precious oxygen, always ready for use. So cool! 6. Lyrebird. Now imagine taking a nice walk in the woods, and suddenly you hear an unmistakable noise. Oh no, a crazed murderer wants to chop me to pieces. Wait a minute. Don't be fooled. It's a lyrebird. This bird could give the god of mischief, Loki, a run for his money. But how is it possible? These birds have the incredible ability to imitate sounds, whether natural or artificial. For example, if you were a Star Wars fan, you should recognize this sound. Pretty cool, right? It can also imitate the calls of at least 20 species of birds. How about a camera? It may sound fake, but it's all true. This Australian bird uses its excellent hearing and remarkable memory to record and store the sounds around it. Then, through a special organ called the syrinx, it can perfectly emulate them. But why would it reproduce all these sounds? Perhaps it wants to make its way into the world of entertainment? No, simply for love. In fact, the male uses all these sounds and calls to attract the female, and the more songs he has in his repertoire, the more effective the courtship will be. Quite romantic, isn't it? 5. Horned lizard. This charming little lizard, native to Texas, has 3 very ingenious ways to deal with predators. Thanks to its jagged body, it can perfectly camouflage itself with the surrounding environment, hiding from potential aerial predators. But snakes hunt by smell rather than sight, and their spiny armor is not enough to keep them at bay. That's when it can resort to the second method, inflating its body and jumping wildly. This is very useful for intimidating the opponent, and when it's so big, it's much harder to eat. But now let's move on to the most incredible method, the one that reminded me of Cyclops' famous power from the X-Men. No, it doesn't shoot lasers from its eyes, but its own blood. I'd say it's a bit more disgusting, but still effective. It's undoubtedly one of the strangest defense methods nature has ever created. It can increase the blood pressure inside the small blood vessels located in its face and eyes. At a certain point, the pressure increases so much that some of these small vessels burst, releasing a stream of blood towards the aggressor. This stream can reach up to 70 inches in length and can be directed using the eye muscles. In addition to the surprise factor, this blood flow contains toxic and repellent chemicals that disgust the enemy and make it back off. I have only one word to describe all this: wow! 4. Bombardier Beetle. From its name, you can already guess that its special ability involves shooting, But what exactly does this beetle shoot? To find out, we must focus on its abdomen. It's inside there that, thanks to a cocktail of substances, a chemical reaction so violent is created that it explodes outward with a scalding caustic liquid. This power reminds me of Zeitgeist with his acid vomit. Remember him? He didn't make a great impression in that movie. If you can think of a different superhero or supervillain, write it in the comments. The only difference is that the Bombardier Beetle shoots its lethal liquid not from its mouth, but through a narrow abdominal opening. At a frequency of about 500 times a second, it creates a sort of caustic machine gun. By directing the end of its abdomen towards the aggressor, the beetle can even aim the spray. This liquid burns and stings the unfortunate aggressor, who can even be killed if small, otherwise, it is forced to flee confused. Here it seems that it is also hit by its own spray, but don't worry, this type of beetle has a shell much more resistant than its caustic liquid. Moreover, it keeps the temperature of its abdomen cool enough not to cook itself. Nature is truly amazing. 3. Hairy frog. What's so special about a small frog from Central Africa? It might seem like an easy and juicy prey for snakes or birds. But these predators are unaware of its formidable secret weapon. This frog can break the bones of its fingers and push them outward, through its skin, using them as sharp claws. Reminds you of someone, right? It's not for nothing that it's called the Wolverine frog. As if that weren't enough, once its claws are retracted, the torn skin regenerates very quickly, just like the famous X-Man. Wait a minute, if you look closely, it seems that its protruding hairs resemble Logan's classic sideburns. I'm starting to think that Stan Lee might have taken inspiration from this frog. However, these hairs are not a stylistic choice, but actually contain small arteries that facilitate the absorption of oxygen when the frog is in water. This allows it to stay submerged for much longer. Nice powers, my little frog. 2. Sepioteuthis squid. Now let's talk about this special squid. What's so special about it? Look here, it can become invisible. Cool, right? Just like Sue Storm from the Fantastic Four. Or at least almost. That's enough to escape predators, and no, it can't create force fields too. That would have been a bit too much. Are you wondering how it does it? Its secret lies in its cells. The squid's skin is covered with chromatophores, pigment sacs that the squid can expand or contract at will. When these chromatophores are dilated, the squid's skin appears dark, and therefore visible. But if threatened, it can quickly contract these sacs, effectively removing its coloration and becoming transparent. Abracadabra, want to see another magic trick? Stay tuned for the next super animal. 1. Common Basilisk. Don't be fooled by its common name. This lizard actually possesses a special characteristic. Here is the superpower of this prodigious lizard. It can walk on water. Or rather, run. Okay, perhaps I know who you're thinking of, but Jesus isn't exactly a superhero. What about Flash? With his super speed, he could easily run on the surface of the water too. Although it doesn't reach the crazy speeds of the DC superhero, this lizard is quite fast. It can reach 15 miles per hour as it dashes across the rivers or lakes of the rainforests in Central and South America. It manages to stay on the surface of the water thanks to its long toes, which create air pockets that keep the lizard afloat. Obviously, this is an excellent way to escape predators, who are left stunned watching this scene. This concludes this crazy ranking. If you liked it, let me know with a nice like and maybe a subscription to the channel. Hey, wait a minute, is someone trying to steal my car? Come on,